Okay, so today we're going to reflect on the 24AK mod a bit. I think I've played enough of this mod that I can now have some opinions about the mod as a whole rather than just cool particular tricks around the place. The main reflections I have are modules, beacons, power grid. We're going to start with the modules. They all kind of overlap. And the thing I like about modules is yeah, the 24AK mod adds a bunch of extra productivity modules. A lot of them are kind of bad, which is good design because you have to figure out where it's actually worth using them. So prior to all of that, let's go back and like review vanilla modules because this is also where a lot of the reflection comes from. So like, especially as Factorio is a speedrun category, it's been pretty heavily like analyzed, and there's a bunch of recipes where we just know that prod mod ones are good to throw in as soon as you get them. This is purple science, yellow science. The mod has changed the icons. That's fine. So this is all pretty standard, and especially if you do any amount of speedrunning or even going after the speedrun achievements, prod ones around the place kind of autopilot, and then also as soon as you get prod mod 3s, you put them in the silo, you launch all your rockets with prod mod 3s because the productivity bonuses are great, and yeah, all of these are, for vanilla Factorio, kind of a solved problem. There's things we know about how beacons work, in that their ranges, you slightly offset them so they overlap as many things as possible, and you use a couple of beacons to make up for the crafting speed that you lose when you're putting modules and things. This is like a labs pattern that I've got for general kind of default settings and Death World things. Get all these things in. It doesn't play nice with space science, but if you're going to one rocket, then that's still completely fine. Yeah, and these are kind of standard patterns that you do in vanilla that in a lot of other mod settings you just kind of pull out these patterns again because they all still work. Like, one of the later things that you do, again, just generally, is this kind of linear beacon thing, because this is a fantastic way of getting a lot of beacons on a lot of assemblers while reducing the number of beacons you have to build and while reducing the number of modules you have to build. So each beacon hits 8 assemblers, each assembler is hit by 8 beacons. Because this is mods and there are some extra ingredients, we need to actually do this kind of stuff before it works, but now this is looking pretty vanilla. And then also, if you have only 3 ingredients, then this kind of pattern is a nice way of getting an amount of stuff in. If you have more than that, you can do belt weaving stuff, but like, whatever. This kind of linear beacon stuff is pretty standard. And then the even more standard thing once you get into megabases is this kind of beacon lattice thing, where you have grids of beacons that you can copy around the place that connect with undergrounds, and you try and get as many beacons on heavily moduled assemblers as possible, because this is kind of like the UPS efficient version of this. This is kind of bad because this one has a speed module, and also this beacon here doesn't hit this assembler, but this kind of, demonstrates the kind of the beacon lattice thing of, can we beacon individual assemblers as much as possible, doing direct insertion things to be UPS efficient. And then 24AK has a couple of other ranks of modules, some of which I've talked about a bit that I haven't really unlocked yet. But yeah, prod mod 1s, 5% crafting, or 5% hit to crafting speed, 4% productivity, good value. 10% productivity in the prod mod 3s, we've all seen these before. This Stokes 2 module of the pink Stokes line in the 24AK mod is one I'm like doing quite a bit of work with, because the 10% productivity bonus is pretty good. I mean, to be honest, the Stokes 2 seems a little bit above its relative power curve. The Stokes 1 goes 6% productivity, Stokes 2 is 10% productivity, Stokes 3 is 12% productivity, but then also major hits to crafting speed. And also I've kind of only just unlocked these, but also there's the major hit to crafting speed means you've got to work a little harder, doing a lot with these ones. And then these other modules that still upgrade from Stokes. These modules get really expensive, and yeah, for 5% productivity we're into minus 50% crafting speed. And then at the top end, so this one is, yeah, tricky. 25% productivity, which is of course fantastic, but minus 80% crafting speed in one module. And yeah, you throw 4 of these in an assembler or something, you have to beacon this really hard to get any decent kind of throughput. And the productivity 100% is fantastic. Pollution is also crazy. If you did this, like doing this in a silo seems great. If you have biters on your map, they are going to really enjoy the amount of pollution you're throwing out. But probably by the time you get these, the biters are also kind of dealt with and you're kind of safe, because those are kind of expensive. And then these are also the only modules that the 248K mod gives you in addition to the normal ones. So it doesn't do the normal mod thing, or it doesn't do the thing other mods do where you get a version of a productivity module that doesn't have the pollution, or extra speed modules to make up for the fact that the crafting speed is being hit hard. I mean, there's other beacon things we'll talk about when we get to beacons, but it's mostly just here are these kind of awkward things that take away all your crafting speed and really hit you hard in the power grid. Figure out how to use them, which is good design. So the thing I've shown a couple of times now is this direct insert smelting pattern I was using to get from rich water to the rich water metals of neodymium, gold, titanium, and yeah, this I had 3 of these tier 2 modules for 30% productivity, and then a speed 3 module and a speed 3 beacon, and it's still at minus 50% crafting speed. And I'm pretty sure I have, yeah, here's some of these things. If I throw in the 4th module for 40% productivity, I now have to throw another 2 speed beacons on this to get this back up to any reasonable pace. So there's this interesting question of like how much speed are you going to compromise? How hard do you need to beacon things? What are the implications for power grid and pollution? That's all kind of a mess. And then if I let's grab all these tier 3 ones off the ground. If I throw in just 3 of the tier 3s, we're now at 36% productivity, which is better, and the crafting speed is again blasted, and we need to module this harder, and the pollution is going to complain, the power grid usage is going to complain. All of that makes this an interesting choice about like exactly how many of these modules do you want. Are you happy beaconing them that much? Do you have the resources to beacon them that much? All that kind of stuff as well. And then, in even more extreme examples, if we look at this beacon lattice thing, of, red chips are an important thing, we want as much of them as possible, let's do an endgame thing where we throw in our highest tier productivity modules and a bunch of vanilla beacons. Okay, so 248K mod has other beacons as well, we'll talk about them on a different day. We're still only getting to 240% crafting speed, and 100% productivity is a big deal, but that pollution number is wild, and this isn't even all that much. This is giving us like 7 times the output of one of these normally, and we know we need a ton of red chips. So we're going to need a lot of these things, which is a lot of modules, a lot of beacons, and a ton of pollution, which, again, probably by the time you're doing this UPS configured beacon lattice stuff, biters are probably fine, but this is going to be a mess. They're not even sure that we want to do plus 100% productivity for red chips. So this is another interesting judgment call to make when I get there. Some of the other things that are interesting here, let's grab all these modules as well, because we want to talk about some stuff, is there are recipes where you can't use regular pod mods or the Stokes mods, which are kind of, I'm going to say the air quotes, decent 248K productivity modules. You can only use the air quotes bad productivity modules. So these guys that are, 5% productivity, 100% pollution, minus 50% speed. So let's decide that we want more crushed stone, because crushed stone goes into a lot of important things. We throw 2 of these modules in, we've now got 10% productivity, and we need to beacon this hard because we are bottoming out the crafting speed. I didn't even realize that was a thing that we could do. Like, I knew that the minimum energy consumption was a thing, that bottomed out at 20%. I didn't realize that crafting speed bottomed out at 20% until I saw this mod do this. And so, yeah, ceramics are another important thing that also depend on the crushed stone. Hey, let's get some productivity in there, and our crafting speed is gone. And yeah, these do end up important because they are one of the other things that goes into red chips that we know we need a lot of. So that is also still a mess. The only way you get productivity out of some of these recipes is by throwing in modules that are kind of awful for your throughput and your pollution and your power grid. A lot of the 24AK specific petrochem stuff also only allows the Gauss modules, which are the ones that are, yeah, air quotes, bad. And then the rich water stuff that I was excited about putting the Stokes modules on the smelting, the rich water itself, you can only use Gauss modules. So some interesting decisions about, let's throw in, let's get 75% productivity out of some of this stuff. Oh, now we've got, hundreds of pollution per minute issue. One of the other things that the 24AK mod does, and I think this is going to be the last thing, and this only happens in a couple of places, is that there are some buildings that have quite ridiculous power grid usage and also don't accept productivity modules. So if you were going to do like a UPS thing and say, let's make this work as fast as possible, the power grid usage ends up pretty insane. They don't have a pollution rating, but 320 megawatts for one building to get to crafting speed 4 is, that's a thing you're going to have to decide if you're okay with. I think what I did and what I'm doing at the moment is something like this. So with a lot of efficiency module 3s, I've got better crafting speed, which is cool, but also then enough efficiency modules to reduce the power grid that makes this kind of better overall. I think the other thing I was doing at one point was, yeah, the base rates of these two buildings is the same, and yeah, so this is 1.5 crafting speed for 12 megawatts. This one is 2 crafting speed for 2.4 megawatts. Yeah, they're better than the unmoduled thing, but also I like that the 24AK has made places where efficiency modules can be useful. And these are also pretty important buildings. They both go into fusion power, which is what you're going to need if you want to do... not that one, this one. Yeah, you're going to need fusion power if you want to have one building that eats 300 megawatts. So yeah, things that I like about 24AK's modules. A lot of the modules seem kind of bad, and I like that as a design, because it means I have to figure out where they're worth using, and how much of them I want to use, and what else I'm going to compromise, and judgment decisions are gameplay.